things jump out at me right away. One is we got to check the intonation. It's not something that we can fix immediately right here, right now. But I fear that part of that is that your bass player isn't here. I'm told that you have a bass player who is here. Although obviously you have the bottom end, it doesn't have the same sustain as a bass guitar or an upright bass, which means that that low end of the sound isn't there for you to kind of reference, right? So, so that's just a struggle. That's something that you have to be aware of. You don't have that as much of that bottom end. That's something that you all really have to be aware of. So you have to work and listen that much more closely to have that reference point. Listen across the section and across the ensemble more than just your own personal note, right? Tuning and intonation is as much an art form as anything else, right? It's not just about your note in relation to the bass or your note in relation to the top end of the ensemble, right? It all kind of melds together, and you have to, these exact pitches, the exact frequencies are gonna be, flexible, let's say, right? The other real important part of that is that these are thick harmonies. These are thick, dense harmonies, and until your ear gets used to hearing those notes, you're gonna have a hard time tuning, flat nines or sharp 11s, and some of these extensions and alterations that you're gonna hear in this music that you might not hear in rock or pop music that you might have listened to all your life. Does that make sense? Right? So again, you have to listen to the bottom end of your sound. One thing I noticed as I was upstairs listening to y'all, can we go right to the end of this chart? We don't have a score in front of me, so.
After the solo is done.
Yeah. No, I mean literally
the very end.
The very
It's
end.
gonna start to say F.
Yeah. Let me hear F. Yeah. Play F for me, and I want to point something out about your tuning and. Sustained note in the tuba, right? Start F again. I'm just gonna play a few measures here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you get this bass line, right? That goes ba, 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 da, right? Yeah, we get a couple of shorter notes in there. Can you do me a favor? Can you take all those short notes? I know it's a lot of air. Can you extend those for me? Can you try that whole section more legato, right? And the point here is that again, you're missing that bottom end, right? You're missing that point of reference. So again, it becomes a struggle. If we add more of that bottom end, I'm hoping you will have something, a more solid foundation to reference for your pitch, right? Start F again. So just try all those notes as much as you can with your breath. Obviously, I understand you have to breathe, and I don't want you to pass out here. Honestly, I really don't. So, but keep it as legato as possible. Right, here we go. F again. 2, 3, 4. I hear a little bit of a difference there. Obviously, again, that's not something that's going to be fixed, within the space of our time here together. But it's definitely something you want to listen for, right? Listen for that bottom end. Tuning amongst a big band or semi-big band is kind of spread out over the ensemble, right? Again, it's that low end, and then it's tuned by the top end. I don't know which of you generally has trumpet 1. Is that on the end?
No, you shouldn't.
I was gonna say.
Fixed it yet.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say you definitely want to be in the middle of. If you're playing the top trumpet part, you want to be towards the middle of the 4. You put one. Usually, it's the one closer to the rhythm section. You two would switch, or kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing. And that allows everyone a better chance to hear, right? If you're over here on the corner, right, your sound is going to be projected kind of to these two and really nobody else, right? So like I said, that tuning comes from both ends, right? We want to get the bottom end from the bass, the top end from the first trumpet, and everyone else has to find their place in the middle of those. Again, these are thick harmonies. These are things that we're not used to hearing. These extensions and alterations on these 7th chords, right? So the more you listen, the more you get comfortable with that. Maybe the more you sit at a piano and play some of these chords, you start to learn the chord voicings for some of these. It doesn't have to be the whole ensemble, but if you have a rhythm section part, right, a piano or a guitar with chord charts, you might give that to everybody, so that you can sit down and all it takes is a bass note, playing the root with the left hand, and then some kind of 3 or 4 note voicing in the right, and you can all learn that. You can all learn how to do that. It doesn't take that much time, but you'll be amazed at what it does for your ears, right? To get to know those chords and what they sound like, and figure out which one of those in some of these longer chords, which note of that chord you're playing, and then what that sounds like on a piano. You'll be able to tune it. You'll have that in your ears much more. So if you go through those things very, very slowly and just kind of pad out those chords on a piano, everything you do on your horns will actually be that much better. I know that's a little counterintuitive. Why am I playing piano if I'm going to be doing blowing my horn? But it really makes a big difference. Okay? So the other thing I hear in this chart, and your others actually, but it's in a ballad it becomes even more obvious, is note shape. Right? We don't want all of our notes to just all be the same level, right? The same dynamic. These notes and this style of music, there's a lot of vitality, a lot of energy, a lot of what's the word I look for? A lot of manipulation that happens with these notes that aren't necessarily on your page, right? And the only way to get to know that is, again, from listening to classic recordings, listening to vocalists, soloists, instrumental melodies, improvised melodies, getting to know those, singing along with them, really internalizing how they play a melody, right? Anybody know this tune? Like, did you know this song before or since you started playing it? Who have you listened to?
I listened to Ellington.
Huh? Great place to go, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think there's also a really great version of Ellington with Coltrane, and I think this might be on that recording as well. So it's not a vocal version. It's not the Ellington Big Band, but it's Ellington playing piano with John Coltrane. It's a really great recording. I want to say this tune's on there. I could be mistaken about that. My memory escapes me at the moment. But seek out versions of this tune. It doesn't have to be the chart that you're listening to, the chart that you're playing, but different versions of the tune, just to get to know the song. You know what I mean? Just to get to know the song and see how these things are performed and how these melodies are manipulated. And even though most of us are not playing the melody, by listening to how the melody gets interpreted, you'll get a sense for how to play the figures that are in the background of the chart. Right? So these things come to life. They have some life and vitality to them. They don't just sit there where everything's the same. Right? So let me give you an example. Go ahead and start at F again. And I'll try and give you an example of what I'm talking about. 1, 2, 3. What measure is that?
2 measures from the end.
Yeah.
Say, okay, so go 3 measures from the end, right? 3 measures from the end, one more time. 2, 3, and. I'm just going to take this figure as an example, but keep in mind that it can apply to a lot of the things you do. So you have this figure, this 1, da 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 da. That it? Or do you have the 8th note?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So 1, da 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 da. Right. Okay. So right now it's coming in, and everything just goes ba da 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 da. Right. The pitch changes a little bit, but I'm hearing all those notes being equally weighted. Yeah. Right. So what you want to do is you want to think about that line and think about how you might sing that figure. Right. And personally, I wouldn't sing it ba da 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 da. Right? Would you? Probably not, right? But that's how we're playing it right now. So think about how you would sing it. I'm a big fan of the idea that we are all singers, right? Everything we play, whether it's a tuba, I play guitar, by the way. So guitar, drums, piano, it doesn't matter what horn you play. Everything should be an extension of our voice, right? So if I'm playing a figure like that, I'm thinking to myself, 1, da 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 da. Right? So you notice a couple things there. One, I crescendoed through the 16th notes. Also, really punch the accent, the staccato. And then what happens on that last note? And this applies to everybody. What did I do on that last note? Sorry? Played it soft, and then what? Crescendo through the note. Did I hear the term? Forte piano or sforzando, right? Either way, right? Those they kind of mean the same thing. So you hit that note, right? So give it some shape, give it some life and energy and vitality, right? These notes don't just sit there. That's a big part of what we do as jazz musicians, is we add to what's on the page, right? It's more than just the notes and rhythms that are on the page. So if we do that same thing again, last 3 measures, right?
Yeah.
So it gives you a little bit of setup. And is it just these two? Does anyone else have that 16th note figure?
Barry.
Okay, Barry too. So just the 3 of them? Okay. So oh good. Okay. Oh good. That's kind of cool actually, because you get both ends, right? So crescendo through those 16th notes, come in softer, right? Really give me an accent on that beat 4, right? And then forte piano on the downbeat, right? Again, I don't have a score. So on the downbeat, punch that note, give it a little bit of an accent, pull back, and then push through the sustained note. Cool? Think about that and how much shape that has. That's just what, one measure, right? So here we go. So we're one measure before that figure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or one measure before that.
Oh, okay.
One measure before that. One measure before the 3. So 3 from the end?
Yeah, 3 for the end.
2, 3, and 1. Lovely, coming in like that. That was beautiful. So these guys, so do you not have trumpets? Do you have the downbeat?
No, we have the upbeat.
You have the upbeat. That was really nice because they have the articulation of the downbeat, and if y'all like kind of come in from nothing, it really adds to that sound. Could you do that one more time? Same thing. So 3 from the end. 1, 2, 3, and. Hear how much more energy that has, how much more kind of life and vitality that has? That sounds great. That sounds really nice. So take that idea with you to all of your figures. Obviously we can't go through a whole bunch of them, but just understand that as jazz musicians, we're gonna bring a lot to the table that's not necessarily in just the notes and the rhythms that are on the page. To get to know that, you have to listen. You just have to listen to the vocabulary. Cool? Alright. Just got a couple more minutes. Drummer, how are you, sir?
Doing well, sir.
Doing well, thank you. Hey, by the way, I really dig the idea that y'all, it's not a uniform, but that everyone has the maroon. I assume that's a school color?
Yes, yes, sir.
That's awesome. The different kinds of maroon stripes and ties and stuff. I think that's really cool. Those they're very, very big on you. He's got the wide 70s thing going. That's awesome. I just saw, what was his name? Not Chuck Berry, but Chuck Barris. You know who Chuck Barris is? You're probably too young.
Oh, yeah.
89, oh, you're totally too young. Chuck Barris was the host of a game show called The Gong Show in the 70s. Anyone heard of this show? YouTube it, it's hilarious. You'll laugh just because it's old and cheesy. I laugh because it's like part of my youth. Anyway, so a couple things here. So just give me your basic brush groove for this tune. Two, 3, and. Okay, so I noticed this in your swing tune as well. You're using your left hand on the snare as 2 and 4, which is very common in rock and pop music, right? In jazz, that disappears completely, right? Right now, you are basically doubling up the job of your snare and your hi-hat, right? Your hi-hat can do that job, right? At faster tempos, you want to make sure your heel is up and you're bouncing on the ball of your foot instead of rocking back and forth. You wouldn't necessarily do that at this tempo, it's too slow, so you want to get the time by going to, right? So we subdivide, right? Make sure we subdivide. Everyone should subdivide the ballads, right? Make sure we're right? So there you would rock back and forth on the heel. Faster tempos, get that heel up, give yourself and your band a more crisp and bright sound with the hi-hat. That 2 and 4 is their metronome, right? So it's really, really important. But the point is, you don't need your left hand to do that job. And that's what you're doing right now. Leave your left hand for what we call comping. So it can be kind of throughout and within the basic groove, but it's not part of the basic groove, right? Your basic groove is ting, 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 right? That's the basic setup. Everything else is just kind of icing on top of that. So get used to your left hand not doing the job of the hi-hat, okay? 2 more things. Don't be afraid of quarter notes with the right hand on the ride. It doesn't always have to be ting, 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 right? That gets old and kind of repetitive. So don't be afraid of quarter notes. Quarter notes never gets repetitive because they're always there. Ting, 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 So I think it was the first tune. Again, we don't have time to play it because I got wrapped around. What is it called?
Brown bag.
Brown bagging. So you had some support figures for the ensemble, right? And it sounded to me like
It
you
was
were.
the jump.
Oh, so I'm sorry. So a different drummer. Okay. You had some support figures with the ensemble. Make sure you don't lose ting, 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 ting as you play those. It sounded like you were doing that, and then you stepped over here and played the support figure, the fill, and the figure that played with the ensemble, and then you came back over here and you were back in the groove. Work on trying to put that figure into the basic rhythmic groove, right? You want it to be a part of it. You don't want that to fall apart so that you can play those figures. Make sure that you can do, it's kind of both at the same time, but it's not like both of them are happening. It's more, you have to figure out how to integrate the two into one thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We do have to wrap it up. I wish we had more time. Time seems to just go by so quickly. At any